The more you truncate, the better it is. If you can, again, that mirroring does take, sometimes you're going to have to take it out of there to truncate it properly. Your backup strategy, if you plan to back, we have a very unique situation. One of the things I always look at is copying it for your daily backups, your weekly backups, and then your monthly backups. We do have audits that go on, so typically our weeklies and our monthlies from the SQL databases are going to go off-site. Okay, and we've had to recover those, I think, 3 times so far, and we haven't had any issues with actually recovering the data back into our environment, which has been really good. It's not a great way to do things, though, with large-scale enterprises. The content databases, we don't do as many as you do. It's better to have a whole bunch. We don't do that as often as we should. It's much easier to manipulate those smaller content databases and to get the content back up instead of having to grab these offsite storage tapes or however they're stored. Content database is 100 or 125 gigs, and then hunting through that content to get what you want. So I always say backup, have a good backup strategy for your content databases. Quotas on sites. From the nightmare that I've went through, I wish everything had quotas. I know it's not possible. I wish that's how I had set it up. In the next environment, we're definitely have a lot more quotas than what we've got now, which I think maybe on 2 of our 20 web applications have quotas. The other 18 do not. So it makes it much easier to manage sizes when you do put those quotas on things. Mirroring clustering for all databases, talked about that, and cheaper, faster solutions for your different environments. Again, that's planning out the environments. The more you do that at the start, the better it is. And everybody kind of knows that the content database is about 100 gigs, as big as you want. It's about as big as you want. Now, I had an interesting conversation actually with a couple of people at Microsoft. Does anybody know why they use that 100 gigs, other than Bill?
I'll defer to Bill.
Anybody else?
For backup speed?
No.
No,
Well, that's what Microsoft says.
not anymore. It's actually
Just
changed.
create multiple threads on SQL for backup. Sorry, the issue is the write time.
For 2007? We're talking 2007.
We can back up.
That's actually what they said to me, Microsoft, multiple times. They said it's all backup issues.
That's not what.
It's their
Zach
backup
Rosenfeld
tool.
Set the numbers.
The 100 gig limit is their backup tool in SharePoint's limit
Okay,
for site collection.
yeah.
And they're assuming a site collection of that size, that if you stay on her, maybe you'll never be over.
In
In 2010, it is 200 gig, but still only one site collection can to use their tools. That is the only restriction, although if you read the new guidance, you can actually go to terabyte stores if you follow the guidance.
Absolutely.
But it's not...
With 2010.
With
2010.
2007, the whole reason was based around the typical size of the content and numbers of users at that size, and the frequency of row-level loss, being escalated table level loss, is that. So they all went in.
And one of the most common problems in the database is if you do a CU and it's got a schema change, you get hit very hard when you have very large databases. They promised not to do schema change in 2010, but they have done some. And so you get, but the process is different now. You can basically go offline and make changes. So the guidance around sizing, if you're exceeding those numbers, you should detach databases of that size during any update and run your updates on an attached basis.
And that's exactly what we were doing before. Yeah, that's a very
There's a lot of guidance,
detached.
and that's why sizing comes in to be important. You can exceed it. Now, one of the problems with that number is it doesn't qualify how much of that capacity is blob storage, okay, which has less effect on you. So if you're heavy on documents, in large documents, that number can be much higher and you won't feel the pain, because basically it's blob storage. Right? So it's a juggled number based on a lot
Yeah.
of different pieces of
We
information.
went a lot higher than that, actually. We haven't had, I wouldn't say we've had any major
It's more the
issues.
number of items in your database than the actual size of the database that will hurt you.
That's just, and like you said, 2010 is a lot better. This is, I'm talking 2007.
Yes. So there's a lot of different things you look at when you make a decision on size now.
Typically have a databases. Okay, I just wanted to finish up with a couple of things here. We talked about this a little bit here over the past year. Actually, I wanted to get a little bit of data on this. We use all physical servers. These are some stats for the physical versus virtual servers on your web front ends. You can see this. First comparison is the request per second throughput. The merger number is faster, obviously, so the right with your physical. And that's looking at the Hyper-V solution versus your physical solution. I was looking for VMware. I couldn't find any VMware. I'm sure it is out there somewhere. I'd be interested to see what it says for the VMware. But we typically have used physical boxes for this, for the front ends and the application servers.
So about a 10% impact.
Or slightly less.
I think 8%.
Yeah. I saw numbers, I think it was somewhere between 5 and 10.
The rule of thumb is on it.
And the only evaluation that differs between physical and virtual is time to delivery hardware. Virtual, if you have the capacity and easy add.
Yeah,
Physical
yeah, for
takes
sure.
a long time to commission into a rack.
Yeah, for sure.
And that tends to be why organizations are going virtual now. Even if they go full server to start, they'll basically commission onto servers whatever they want.
I think we're gonna continue down the physical road. I think we're.
Actually, you should see, you make it to Tech Days, Demir's doing his presentation on virtualization. And if you look at what he has to say, there's a lot of different.
There's also a really good white paper that
Yeah, the white paper
use
goes along.
physical storage, and physical local storage kicks the butt out of some of
Yeah, that's definitely. I would 100% agree with that.
The only other
Even
issue,
with the fiber channel, it's still much better way to go.
even with virtualization, you should be moving to iSCSI, not fiber connecting now. The iSCSI gives you just as good performance numbers as fiber, and it doesn't bind you to where you actually have to create the physical connections.
Is that gonna cost me more money?
Most vendors support both now.
Do they? I think what's, again, I think that's, if that's the better solution, we'll get to it maybe a couple of years down. Again, that gets into your large enterprise. Everything's always
So
slow,
the biggest
right?
hardware SAN vendor, they're both Fiber Connect and iSCSI.
In terms of number of servers,
Yeah.
the reference to SQL. So 10 is the rule of thumb, but that also depends on the number of databases you have. We ran into bottleneck where we had 10 front ends connecting to one single server. But because we have so many databases,
Yeah.
each one is a separate connection for each server. So it's the connections that will determine this.
Actually, one thing you
10
didn't,
and 1,
Right.
that's unique, okay?
how are you
Well,
configuring at the
cluster,
network
but
level?
it's 1.1 is active.
What's that?
How are you configuring at the network level to deal with your capacity requirements? Are you dual homed on all your home front end servers, so you're running only front end activity on one side, data off the back? Or are you single adapters?
I think it's dual.
Yeah, because dual is the recommendation for high capacity.
Yeah, I think,
You need to.
I'm
actually
trying to
go-
remember when they talked to the people on the.
Yeah, you should be configuring all your back end activity of a second adapter, and your front end all goes to a single.
and I think
About 10 to 1 ratio, so you're about 10 times as much data to the back channel.
Yeah, now they also, I mean, they don't, for our front ends too, though, they don't typically touch them now with the, anything backup. They don't go after them very often, so then you don't have a performance impact on that side of things.
Yeah, but SharePoint alone itself pulls 10 times as much data off of its database as what it delivers to the user
Oh, yeah, for sure.
on average. So you need that second channel for the capacity of users.
I think that's what we have, if I remember correctly. this is I think this is my last slide. The second comparison point is the page response time, or time to last byte for each configuration. So here again is your Hyper-V versus your physical, and your small number is faster. You can see that the physical box is slightly better. I've left a few, I've had a few of the resources I put there. I think what I'm going to do is also, I'll give this, I guess they want to put it up in the meetup section.
Give to
And
try.
then I'll also put it up on my own site too, just so we have
Put it on
two.
your site, just let me know and I'll post something.
Okay. And there's just
Yeah.
going
No
to
one ever
show
sends me the window.
one tool, and I got a few problems with it. Just to let you see what happens.
Is that actually your desktop?
That is actually my desktop.
You don't have nearly enough crap.
Actually, things have been a little squished
You're on a smaller screen.
from moving this, but I do have
About
tons
the
of
size of
stuff.
this amount.
And believe it or not, I'd say I use about 3/4 of those on a weekly basis, which is kind of crazy, but that's what it is. This is the sizing tool, and again, this is for 2010, and they have a 2007 version. And like I said, the only thing that I found was the local storage was a little bit flimsy. But it's very useful, I found. Actually, it was giving me errors before, so it's kind of nice it's not giving me errors. Small Moonlight Enterprise. You can actually look at the amount of potential users. It gives you all these different types of scenarios. I like fooling around with all these type of numbers, see what happens. We used 100,000 before. Percentages. Actually talks about the search operations. Because we actually have applications, I always put that up a little bit higher than normal. We actually, like I said, in our merchandising department, we have a lot of searching going on right now. We have an SAP implementation happening right now. What's that? I'm not touching it. It's been ongoing. Our SAP implementation's been going on for about the last year and a half.
They're
It's
just getting
actually,
started.
it's going to be another. I think it's going to be another year. But our SAP implementation is the biggest in the world right now. So you can imagine how large that is. It's huge. So what eventually it is actually going to hook into the SharePoint and that are going to talk back and forth. But they're using so much of the, putting things into SAP from the merchandise side of things. We have literally hundreds of thousands of SKUs, and not even just on the merchandising side of things. And so they're storing all that information in SharePoint. They need, quick searches on that type of thing. So we're using that a lot. I always put that up a little bit higher. I also, when I'm doing my reports, I'm always checking on how much searching is happening.
Drop 25 to 30.
This is for 2010.
This is a Windows app?
Yeah, this is a freebie.
Is it on the Mac?
What's that?
Is it on the Mac?
A Mac?
Yeah, my personal computer's a Mac.
When
If you do a boot to Windows.
you'll be on
Yeah. All right, fine, I'll do it at work.
What's the virtualization for the Mac? That's what you need.
virtualized now.
Well, no, you had PC on Mac.
Too many requests per second.
Too many requests.
Cut down your user count or something. Or could go package in.
this is what it gives you. I just wanted to show you what it gives you. So this was for 50,000 users. But you can see things are fairly consistent. 16, 12, 12, 12, 20 for your sequels. Again, I would kind of up that anyways. That's kind of low to me. But the rest of the stuff you'll see 7, 3, 2, 2. Again, I'd go a little higher than that probably. But generally, that total number for that many users and that much searching, it's a pretty good ballpark to start you with something. It's a good starting point, and gives you something to work off of, you know. You really want something to work off. When you're starting to flip over to, you know, you're going to create this huge environment that's going to last you 3-4 years, and you can scale it up. This is a good starting point for things.
I was just going to add that one of the trends that I saw this year at Shipman Conference was people having multiple SQL clusters and their instances of SQL for content DBs, for config DBs, for logs, SQL logs, and such, even beyond within the SQL partition of the lens. And it seems to be I don't know, it's an interesting practice that kind of takes the load off and more to the idea of tuning each of those SQL clusters for the type of performance that's expected. And especially to take the content DB load away from the transaction and the volume load.
That's a good idea.
Especially when you have like query services and
how many servers are you talking, SQL servers?
it just depends. I mean, it depends what your failover ADR and change and all that kind of stuff on CD still. But I think typical was around 3.
3, okay.
3 sets of clusters. Basically one for the health and monitoring, another for content DB, and another for
That's where we're headed next with our 2010
So general thoughts from people. I know you talked about virtualization, but guidance I've seen from Microsoft is still virtualize the web front ends, but physical for the index, physical for the SQL.
I recommend virtualize everything.
Virtualize everything?
That's
Other
the way
thoughts?
I'm
I'm just
going now.
curious.
I disagree.
I'm going that way now.
Anyway.
The penalty is the highest penalty is about 8%.
Even on the SQL and
And
on
the
the
sequels all pass through.
fast,
Yeah,
whatever.
you give it enough memory, it's not a problem.
Who wants a session on that? Bill and I can stand in front.
It's a debate. I would debate before, but it was always based on the fact that it was the scenario support from Microsoft.
Mhm.
Now virtualization is a fully supported platform by Microsoft. They'll give you support on the virtual platform. And that was the reason I would never recommend it before.